Tonight, as much as $1 million, a drugs bust in the mid-north leads to the charging of 2 men. And a Broken Hill GP speaks out, fearing bulk billing is getting out of control.
This is Southern Cross News with Alison Drower.
Hello, great to have your company tonight. Another big announcement from the mining conference in Whyalla this week. Oz Minerals says it will press go on the next stage of the Carrapateena copper mine, about 160 kilometres north of Port Augusta. Upper Spencer Gulf mayors and MPs are thrilled with the confirmation, saying it puts the region in the best position for jobs and growth.
Signed, sealed and now time to deliver. Carrapateena will be developed with a $916 million investment from Oz Minerals.
Thousands of people that are going to be needed and thousands of skilled labour, and skilled labour is one thing that we have.
We will get a lot of spin-off from this, so really important for our communities.
From 2019, the mine will produce 65,000 tonnes of copper for export every year over 2 decades. It'll create up to 1,000 jobs, and Oz Minerals says it's committed to making sure those opportunities are offered to locals first.
We want to involve them in all of the construction piece going forward and operationally into the future.
However, the much-touted copper concentrate treatment plant will be managed separate from the mine.
Carrapateena on its own will produce a concentrate which is of a very high quality and internationally saleable. The concentrate treatment project will keep going, but on a separate time frame.
Port Augusta's Mayor Sam Johnson says the Upper Spencer Gulf will remain in the box seat to economically benefit from the mine.
I have every faith and confidence that they will continue to engage and work with the communities of the Upper Spencer Gulf.
It will be good for the whole region if it's built in the region, but that's up to Oz Minerals.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
Port Pirie police have today shown off one of their biggest drug busts in recent years. Cannabis worth tens of thousands of dollars has been seized in raids in the mid-north.
Police swooped on the property late yesterday, seizing a large amount of cannabis, surprising even the officers involved.
This is a substantial amount of cannabis, and certainly the most amount of cannabis that I've seen come through the York Mid-North, in particular the Port Pirie region, in a lot of years.
Hundreds of dollars in cash was also seized from the property. Police are still determining exactly how much the drugs would be worth on the street.
We are looking at tens of thousands of dollars and possibly a lot more than that. As I said, inquiries are ongoing at this stage.
2 local men have now been charged, with one of those men also facing serious firearm offences.
A 49-year-old man and a 62-year-old man, both from the estate's mid-north, have been jointly charged and will face court today in relation to trafficking a commercial quantity of drugs.
The men have been refused bail ahead of a court appearance in Port Pirie. Police will now send the drugs to Adelaide for forensic examination, while investigations continue into the alleged trafficking operation. Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
Port Augusta has today welcomed the Governor-General, Sir Peter Cosgrove, to the city. A full agenda started at the Wadlata Outback Centre, where Sir Peter and Lady Cosgrove enjoyed a look at local Indigenous history and culture.
With an itinerary timed down to the second, the Governor-General and Lady Cosgrove were greeted with warm handshakes from the Mayor, the CEO and Anne O'Reilly, Council's Community Services Director. Their Excellencies had time chatting to the Wadlata staff and, just like any visitor, entered the Tunnel of Time to learn more about where Port Augusta began.
I think they were fascinated just by the sheer size of the displays once you get in through the initial entry. They were quite amazed at how much was back behind that initial entry, and were particularly interested in the Dreamtime and Early Settler exhibition.
Sir Peter and Lady Cosgrove also taking a keen interest in the displays of railway history.
And it's always great to have important visitors to our town who can then spread the message to others about the wonderful attractions that we do have here in Port Augusta. So hopefully the Governor-General can take that information back, and also his entourage that accompanied him today.
Sir Peter was eager to get hands-on, jumping into a truck simulator of what it's like to be on the front line of the lead Pirie Creek coalfields.
The Governor-General and Lady Cosgrove did enjoy the visit here to Woollahra today and have indicated that they'd like to come back again sometime in the future, possibly once he has retired.
Before leaving, he gifted Mrs O'Reilly with a medal depicting his role as Chief of the Australian Defence Force. This evening, the couple will mingle with local identities at a civic reception at the Botanic Gardens. Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
An L-plater has been caught speeding at nearly 3 times the legal limit on a street in Port Lincoln. The 16-year-old was clocked on Wingard Terrace at around 6:30 last night, doing 136 kilometres an hour in a 50k zone. He has lost his licence for 6 months as well as a fine. A Broken Hill GP has spoken out about his concerns Medicare is not working to reduce out-of-pocket expenses for patients. Dr Ramu Nerchapan says patients are putting off going to the GP because the rebate is not worth it.
The latest snapshot on Medicare has found more than 87% of patients were bulk billed over the past year. But a local GP says such simplified statistics are not reflecting the true picture of general practice.
The viability of general practices such as mine are under question in recent times because the government has mushroomed all over the place with the government-funded general practice services.
Dr Nerchapan says out-of-pocket costs for GP services increased by 4.6% last year.
The out-of-pocket fee is how much someone pays on top of the Medicare rebate. In order to survive, specialist GPs like myself are arguing that you need to charge a gap fee out-of-pocket, which is the out-of-pocket cost.
He says many general practices have had to increase their out-of-pocket charges to stay viable, meaning patients are then slugged with that cost, as much as $36 a visit.
The larger number of 90+% of all Medicare services in general practice are bulk billed, which means we've accepted that as full payment. And that's created the crisis we're in now.
Dr Nerchapan says this cost may put off some people from seeing their GP, and as a result, they are putting their own health at risk. He's calling for greater investment and funding for general practice from the federal government, or else many GPs will turn away from bulk billing.
I agree with a lot of the other doctor groups in suggesting that the Medicare rebate needs to jump significantly by approximately 20% to continue this bulk billing route of general practice services. Otherwise, viability of general practice is under threat.
Patrick Reinke, Southern Cross News.
After the break, a Port Pirie woman and her cancer story ahead of Daffodil Day tomorrow. That is next on Southern Cross News. You are watching Southern Cross News. A man and a teenage girl will face court later next month, charged over threatening the manager of a fast food place in Port Augusta this week. The 20-year-old man will face a charge of aggravated assault, while a 16-year-old girl is accused of hindering police. Port Lincoln is getting ready for summer storm season, with council moving quickly on upgrade plans to prevent major flooding. A major upgrade will focus on Liverpool Street and other city public spaces as part of a bigger picture plan for the next 10 years.
Businesses left awash, chaos on the roads, water levels high enough to paddle through, and emergency crews left cleaning up the mess. These scenes have become a common occurrence on Liverpool Street, with residents left feeling high and dry. However, this week the Port Lincoln Council finally committed $3.2 million into fixing the problem.
It'll take us from a 40% chance of getting flooded in any given year down to a 5% chance, and I think that's a fantastic improvement if that can be done.
Liverpool Street has always been one of the most flood-prone precincts, and that will be the focus of the biggest spend.
We only had $5 million of stormwater budget for over 10 years, and this is going to spend most of that in one area in one hit.
But not everyone is happy, with some businesses viewing the plan as short-sighted, but council says their upgrade has the next 10 years in mind.
I guess some of them could be disappointed that we're not going to the $5.5 million one, but it just comes down to money, and the city can't afford that.
Ratepayers can expect a small hit, but the council says this is a project that has to be done.
The difference between a 5% chance of getting flooded and a 1% chance we didn't think was worth the extra $2 million.
Jason Kemp, Southern Cross News.
A Royal Australian Navy veteran is walking west to east across Australia, raising funds for Legacy, an organisation which cares for war veterans and families. Tristen Harris is hoping to raise $25,000 for the cause.
It's a lot of steps, 4,000 Ks for a walk across Oz. Tristen Harris is a former medic with the Royal Australian Navy, so he knows well the focus and stamina required to complete such a big trip, driven by a cause very close to his heart.
On my second tour of Iraq, things got pretty nasty over there, and I thought, if something happened to me, who's going to look after my family? That's where Legacy comes in. So they support not just war widows, but they support children, husbands, everything like that. You know, it's hard to raise money for things, so you have to do something big, hence the walk.
Mr Harris started his journey at HMAS Stirling in WA back in May and has already raised $7,000.
It's to raise funds for Legacy Australia. So we started in Perth at HMAS Stirling on the 1st of May. I'm hoping to finish on the 31st of October. On the east coast at HMAS Creswell, so 3 hours south of Sydney.
This three-wheeled cart carrying everything for his trip.
Coming across the Nullarbor, it was like 8 days of that in a row. Tent, walk, it got pretty monotonous. But when you meet people, caravanning, riding push bikes, that sort of stuff, makes the day go a bit quicker too.
You can find out more about Mr Harris's amazing trip by going to walkacrossoz.com. Amelia Simpson, Southern Cross News.
With Daffodil Day tomorrow, a Port Pirie woman has told how money raised from the day has helped her cope with her own battle with cancer. We're being urged to make a donation in the knowledge that the money does help local families.
It's the Cancer Council's biggest fundraiser on the calendar. Daffodil Day offering hope for every family who's been touched by cancer.
Horrible disease affects everyone, especially in a town this size. I'm sure everyone would know a family member, a spouse, a neighbour, a friend, a work colleague that's been affected by cancer.
It's well known cancer sufferers in Port Pirie can spend long road trips back and forth to Adelaide for treatment. And survivor Faye Baker says she has been one of the many country patients who have been accommodated in Green Hill Lodge.
It really helps with the lodge because we are so lucky, the country people, getting that money to help us that go down there.
Money raised from Daffodil Day will continue to assist families covering the costs of staying in the city and also getting down to Adelaide.
It is godsend for the country people, so I hope that they do well with their funds in Port Pirie.
Joy Quinn and her team of volunteers will be sitting outside of the Ellen Centre tomorrow, encouraging locals to donate what they can towards the big goal of raising $450,000 for South Australia.
I've been amazed at the years I've done this in Port Pirie. The generosity of this local community for Daffodil Day has just been tremendous, and I just hope it continues tomorrow.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
After the break, celebrations in Broken Hill where the under-18 Roos side have bounced the Magpies to clinch the premiership. Well, Broken Hill has enjoyed a little bit of finals footy fever with Central and South squaring off in the under-18s grand final. The Magpies had the upper hand early but squandered their opportunities, allowing the Roos to come back and claim a 10-goal win.
Cheer, cheer, the red and the white.
Honour the name, YJM, lift that noble banner high, shake down the thunder from the sky.
The South Roos proved too strong for the Central Magpies last night, winning the under-18s grand final by a convincing 72 points. It wasn't all smooth sailing though. Central had their chances. The Pies had all the play in the first quarter, surging forward and scoring the opening goal through Linda McGuinness. South struggled to get the ball forward as Central took control, but wasted opportunities and inaccurate kicking would come back to haunt them, with South only trailing by 7 points at quarter time. The Roos hit back in a big way in the second quarter, with Connor Washbrook leading by example. He slotted 6 majors across the game and was the X-factor in South's win. He was awarded best on ground. South had turned the tables and led by 33 at the main break. A Magpie comeback looked on the cards when Harry Campbell scored 2 goals in quick succession. But South handed Central a reality check, booting another 7 goals across the third term, to have the game all sewn up by the last change. Throughout the final, Central struggled to hit targets with even the simplest of kicks and handballs, while South moved swiftly and confidently across the ground. Callum and Tyler McKenzie, as well as Ethan King and Angus Collins, all stood out for the Roos. For Central, Harry Campbell and Tom Ware were the top performers, with Cassidy Evans, Dylan Ryland and Luca Napoli all showing signs of good things to come. Ultimately, South reigned supreme, with their coach ecstatic with the result.
I was quite nervous coming in with the momentum that Central's had. The first quarter I was extremely nervous. Gave the boys a bit of a rev up, changed the magnet board around, and these guys responded exceptionally well over the next 3 quarters.
This week we'll see all other grades play their preliminary finals. Patrick Roinke, Southern Cross News.
It is Thursday night, so that means it's time to cast the line, see what's biting out there in fish and tips, starting with Port Pirie.
Welcome to another week around the Gulf fishing tips from Port Pirie. Now, it's pretty murky water out there from the weather we've had in the last week or so it's going to be a little bit harder to find your King George whiting spots. There is a few being found, but you do have to work on your GPS to get there. So what I'm saying at the moment is the best thing to do is to try for some salmon and some garfish. Those are top feeders, so you should be able to pick them up no problem. So just run a good feed of burley and you'll get a good run. Snapper have been a bit elusive, but I think if you go out deeper, you should find them.
G'day and welcome to this week's fishing tips from Port Augusta, Jewel of the North. Well, the change of seasons are upon us now. There's some whiting out there, but you really have to work for them. There's some squid still. They're starting to thin out, so time to suck up the freezer there. And just mainly a boating tip at the moment. If you're going to get a new boat, you still have to put those bungs in, so that wasn't a real sharp idea there.
Whalers fishing report this week. There's been a lot of pan-sized snapper coming in along the one steel rock walls. Just remember to keep your safe distance off there. There has been some good fish coming out early in the morning and late in the afternoon. Also for the boaties, there's been some nice whiting down towards Mount Young. There hasn't been a lot of big snapper coming in the past week. There's also been some good numbers of garfish amongst the place as well, and still plenty of squid. For the land-based anglers, just a few salmon trout out towards Point Lowly and Becky Point.
G'day and welcome to this week's fishing tips from Port Lincoln. Starting up the coast around Port Neal and Arno Bay, there's been some great whiting catches up there, a few rugger snapper around the place, but mainly just the whiting and the squid. Down around Tumby, it's a pretty similar story. Some good weather the last week and some boats have been managed to get out to the group and get into the whiting. There's been some squid inshore and off the town jetty, but late afternoon's probably the best bet. Down here into Port Lincoln, we've had some great catches of squid in the bay. The whiting are probably doing a little bit better down the passage down towards Taylor's Landing. Down along the south coast, there's been some great catches of salmon. Better catches have been coming from up the west coast, but still a good chance to get down there and get amongst them. That's about it for this week. We'll see you for more fishing tips next week. Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
It looks as though it is going to be a lovely weekend for getting out into some sunshine. Your local weather is next on Southern Cross News. Well, our run of sunny conditions continued for most of the region today. Port Augusta again enjoyed a lovely 18 degrees for the Governor-General's visit, 17 for Whyalla and then 16 for the rest. On the satellite, a trough is generating some cloud over the state's west, but there's not a lot of rain with that. Moist onshore winds impacting the south and all clear in the north. On the water tomorrow, the seas will be up to 1.5 metres on a south-southwesterly swell. Sunrise will be at 6:49 and sunset at 5 to 6. Tomorrow's conditions are going to stay fine with the exception of Port Lincoln and Coffin Bay, which will be mainly overcast tomorrow, down to 0 for many of our centres tonight, thanks to the clear skies from that high system. And Adelaide tomorrow, an early shower for 16. To the next 4 days, cloud clearing in Lincoln for a sunny Saturday, Sunday and Monday. Cleve will also hover around 16 degrees into the weekend, while Woodner will be a little bit warmer and also sunny. Whyalla will also be clear and 18 tomorrow, and that's basically the pattern for you for the weekend. Loads of blue sky too for Port Augusta and Kadina. Port Pirie will see maximums stay around 17 degrees. Clare will be a little on the chilly side for 14, and Broken Hill will be sunny tomorrow but cloudy for Saturday, but no rain and 17 degrees. That is all your latest local news from the Southern Cross team tonight. There's lots of ways you can keep in touch with an email, or you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and you can of course view any of tonight's stories or past bulletins on our Southern Cross News YouTube channel. We will see you back here tomorrow at 6:30. I'm Ali Drower. Have a great night.